Tonight, a school holiday gift. Buddy Bubbles for lockdown children. We'll tell you exactly how they work. Police overpowered and in retreat as Melbourne's anti-vaxxer anarchists overrun the city. The Prime Minister's trip to New York set to define Australia's future for years to come. Spring snow and a polar blast, stunning and freezing. Embarrassing and a debacle. The Tigers chairman unloads on the events which led to Michael Maguire surviving as coach.
This is 9 News with Peter Overton.
Good evening. After months of isolation, children across Sydney have been thrown a lockdown lifeline, told they can now form a friends bubble and have their mates over again. It comes as Health Minister Greg Hunt appeals to Pfizer to seek Australian approval for children as young as 5 to be vaccinated. The vaccine found to be safe and effective in younger age groups.
Playdates are back on and in the nick of time.
It's school holidays and it's just perfect timing for being able to see our friends.
With schools shut and stay-at-home orders in place, it's been a long and lonely 3 months for children. Just ask 15-year-old Elisa Horan.
It's been very difficult not being able to socialise in person because Zoom and FaceTime can only do so much to keep you connected.
The Year 9 student was centre stage at this morning's COVID briefing as the government announced the creation of a friends bubble.
That is as a direct result of what children and young people have been saying, that they want to be able to see their friends, they want to be able to do it safely, and the reason they want to do that is for their own wellness.
It kicked in at midday. Each young person is allowed to choose 2 mates to come to their house, creating a 3 friends bubble.
It's very challenging to just pick 2 people. It's a really hard choice.
Made even harder because the bubble can't be changed. If you have more than 1 child, they can have their buddies over at the same time. Carers or parents must be vaccinated and they cannot interact.
The kids are over the moon about this, so it's going to reinvigorate them.
And children have more to look forward to than just playtime. At the moment, the push is to vaccinate 12 to 15-year-olds, but today we learned children as young as 11 could soon join the queue. In the US, they're planning to roll out a lower dose of the Pfizer vaccine to the younger age bracket by the end of October. Health officials here are also very keen.
If an application is received for this age group, obviously then the TGA will very quickly go to assess this information and make a decision.
It's possible we will have an answer before the end of the year. Damien Ryan, 9 News.
One COVID case has thrown Byron Bay into a 7-day lockdown and the fallout was swift. Queensland once again shutting its border to New South Wales, leaving communities and businesses on each side of the Tweed stranded and angry.
Saturday night at the Beach Hotel, Byron Bay. A town in a delicate dance with the pandemic, with just 35% full vaccination. But the party is over. A confirmed Delta case from Sydney, enough for the state's anti-vax headquarters to be sent into a 7-day lockdown.
I just don't get it. No one gets it. Everyone's sick to death of it. We want to stop. The bureaucrats have got to stop playing with their lives.
I think it's a bit of an overreaction with just one case.
Residents of Byron Shire, Tweed and Kempsey told to stay at home after a film worker with a valid exemption flew to Ballina Airport. They were infectious over the weekend, even though they tested negative on a rapid test at Sydney Airport.
Don't always show up, and in this case it didn't. The PCR test then showed later that there was a positive case.
The case enough to damage border diplomacy with Queensland.
We're hoping that obviously the Queensland Government will continue to be flexible and reasonable for the people of the northern areas of New South Wales.
That would present a real risk to the southern parts of the Gold Coast.
Travel between the border communities has been suspended. Life once again hamstrung by a line on a map.
Most of our staff live in New South Wales, so they literally can't come to work.
We were even looking into getting another salon in New South Wales just so that we could work, and that's on top of paying rent here.
There was a slight jump in cases, 1,022, but our hotspot council areas are seeing fewer. Sadly, there were 10 deaths. Our vaccine rate, though, double dose, now at 54.2%, keeping us on track to end lockdown on October 11. But the Queensland Premier won't commit to a vaccination target to open her borders.
National Cabinet is working on a national plan. We are waiting for further information to come from the Doherty modelling to National Cabinet in a fortnight's time.
Queensland should hit 80% double dose by the middle of November, in plenty of time for a Christmas or summer holiday. But Anastasia Palaszczuk isn't tying herself to anything.
80% means different things to different states.
We'll set a date when it's safe to do so, but that will require between 80 and 90% two-dose vaccination across the community.
Chris O'Keefe, 9 News.
So let's drill down and check in on how we're tracking in the vaccine race. Sophie Walsh is with me in the studio. Sophie, we're on the home stretch.
Yes, Pete, we are steaming ahead. Today we ticked over 9 million doses here in New South Wales with 126,700 jabs in arms in the past 24 hours. If we look at first doses, 83% of people 16 and over have had one shot. 54.2% have now had two. At this rate, we're expecting to hit 70% double dosed in just 17 days on October 8, which would make Freedom Day the Monday after, October 11. Put that date in your diary. It'll mean those fully vaccinated can head back to the pub, to restaurants, retail shops and gyms, and travel freely within the state. As for 80%, we should reach that target in 27 days' time on the 18th of October, which will open up more freedoms around international travel. Time to dust off that passport, Pete.
Sophie, thank you. As we go to air, an unstoppable and angry crowd is still toying with traffic and police in Melbourne. More than 1,000 construction workers, furious with mandatory vaccines on work sites, stop traffic and attack police.
Out of work and now out of control. One protester running over the top of an unmarked police car as steel-capped boots leave dents. Police in full retreat, windows smashed. Get him! Police on the run, responding with tear gas. What? Day 2 of demonstrations stopping the streets of Melbourne. Officers taunted by hundreds, united by anger and fluoro work clothes.
Mandatory vaccinations shouldn't be allowed to do it. Well, why should we put that poison into our bodies?
This is not Australia! That's right, dip your head, put your head down, senior! How is that fair? I'm on my knees! And it's not right!
From 10 a.m, police and protesters played a cat and mouse game through Melbourne's CBD. It began at CFMEU headquarters, boarded up from yesterday's violence.
Leave now or force may be used. No further warnings will be given.
They walked en masse and on to the state's parliament. Past construction sites now shut for a fortnight to heavily fortified steps, riot shields, rubber bullets and horses as reinforcements arrived. Not all were in the union, but this man happy to show his membership and speak his mind.
If they're going to mandate it, you're going to follow the narrative of the politicians and whatnot. Why aren't they mandating it for the politicians first?
Now a sea of fluoro and fingers weaving through trams, clogging the heart of the city and onto the Westgate Freeway. The group growing, arriving on the back of trucks, hundreds of cars across 14 lanes of traffic blocked. The group marching kilometres to the middle of the Westgate Bridge, stopping for a sing-along. 8 hours of demonstration, frustration and celebration continuing tonight with the promise of more tomorrow. Charles Croucher, 9 News.
And Charles joins me. Charles, there had been fears of copycat protests here in Sydney.
Yes, Pete, police prepared for demonstrators. There were dozens of officers outside CFMEU headquarters in Pyrmont, but the protest did not happen. And in contrast with all that's going on in Melbourne tonight, on Monday, construction sites here in Sydney are back at full capacity. Unions have worked alongside the Berejiklian government to get to this point. They say it is another step on our path towards normal. Pete?
Charles, thank you. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has arrived in the United States for what's shaping up to be one of the most consequential weeks in Australia's post-war history. The diplomatic spat over Australia's nuclear submarine pact with America and Britain is intensifying. France rallying European allies, threatening to block an EU trade deal with Australia.
Touching down on a balmy New York evening.
I'm very pleased to be here in the United States.
But headed into a storm of French fury, which is now threatening to derail Australia's trade deal with the EU.
One of our member states has been treated in a way that is not acceptable. So we want to know what happened and why.
Explaining his surprise sub-deal to European leaders will be Scott Morrison's first priority on US soil, seeking to reassure the bloc after Australia's abrupt foreign policy change, partnering with America and Britain to go nuclear.
It would be naive to think that a decision of this nature was not going to cause disappointment. And at the end of the day, you have to do things that are in Australia's national interest.
Foreign Minister Marise Payne was denied a meeting with her French counterpart in New York today, instead meeting with EU officials who are tonight holding crisis talks about the new security pact. The US president already under scrutiny from allies over the bungled withdrawal from Afghanistan, now facing questions over whether his pledge to rebuild alliances in the post-Trump era is genuine. The White House scrambling to set up a phone call with the French president in the coming days.
You can expect the president's call will be more about reaffirming our commitment, the United States' commitment to our alliance, to our partnership.
The third amigo, Boris Johnson, is in town too. He'll have dinner with Scott Morrison in Washington tomorrow. Also on the Prime Minister's agenda, discussions about COVID response and climate change. Before the main event, a White House meeting with leaders of the Quad Alliance, Australia, America, India and Japan.
In a few hours' time, the Prime Minister will sit down with Joe Biden to nut out more details of the nuclear pact, which has sparked concerns from our closest neighbours about an arms race in the Indo-Pacific. Scott Morrison now finds himself in America, putting out diplomatic fires from Europe all the way to our own doorstep.
Calling Indonesia's president from the air en route to New York, reassuring him Australia is seeking peace and stability in a region on shaky ground. In New York, Amelia Adams, 9 News.
Live to our political editor Chris Uhlmann in Canberra. Chris, Scott Morrison says he has Australia's national interest at heart, but has he mishandled the diplomacy?
Well, Pete, in the words of one American commentator, there is no elegant way to cancel a wedding. And in the long run, the new agreement with the UK and the US promises much more than nuclear submarines. But it is vital that relations with the French are repaired, and that's as much a job for Washington as Canberra. It's good that Scott Morrison has spoken to the Indonesian president, because Jakarta needs to be reassured that our arms build-up does not threaten it. And the Prime Minister's most crucial diplomatic meeting this week is with the leaders of what's called the Quad, a new strategic partnership between Australia, India, Japan and the United States. Building ties with like-minded countries is much more likely to curb Beijing's aggression than buying weapons. We don't want war, and we can't win an arms race with China, Pete, but we can win a friend's race.
All right, Chris, thank you. Talks will begin with health officials in coming days to get community sport back up and running. It comes after a new report found some clubs are on the brink of financial collapse.
For now, the Nets will have to do. The kids at Kellyville Ridge Cricket Club still don't know when they'll return to the pitch.
Our families don't know when cricket's going to start, so they're reluctant to actually register their participation for themselves or their children playing cricket.
A drop in registrations, fewer fundraising activities and struggling sponsors mean clubs are taking a financial hit. A study by the Australian Sports Foundation paints a grim picture of the current state of community sport. 83% of clubs are losing revenue from COVID-19. 1 in 10 are at risk of financial insolvency.
So that's about 9,000 clubs who are at risk of going under. So I just ask you to think about, if your club in your local town or your community went under and it wasn't there, what would be the impact on your community? It would be a real devastating blow.
There's been speculation community sport may not return until we reach 80% vaccination rates, but today the Health Minister indicated it could be allowed sooner.
I'm very keen to see community sport resume. I think that it would be appropriate to have more discussions directly with the senior health officials, so Dr Chan's team, and we're going to facilitate that in the next few days and see what we can do to try and persuade public health that it's appropriate.
Outdoor sports like cricket would be first to be given the green light. Other codes like netball are reportedly considering running alternate seasons to make up for local competitions lost over winter. Laura Tunstall, 9 News.
With our inner city at Ghost Town, the green light has been given for CBD laneways to be revitalised and ready to go for outdoor dining when restrictions ease. The City of Sydney is preparing the underused spaces to draw people back into the city to bars and restaurants in a safe way. Springtime sometimes has a wicked sense of humour. Just when you think you can pack the winter woolies away, a polar air mass arrives and temperatures plummet. Today, there were widespread dumps of unseasonal snow.
It wasn't just a flurry. Perisher was flush with the fattest of flakes. A late September snowstorm dumping 40 centimetres in 48 hours. Some lucky skiers not in lockdown, making the most of the school holiday surprise. Down the mountain at Jindabyne, residents awoke to scenes normally reserved for winter. Oberon had a smattering too. Even a light dusting at Orange was worth the wait for one bloke.
I've never seen snow ever in my life, so today's a very special day for me. 40 years old and I finally get to see it.
The sun was out in Sydney, but it didn't help much. Even puffer jackets were no match for the glacial winds whipping in from Antarctica. Shorts probably weren't the wisest choice.
It's crazy. It's crazy cold today.
This seal found the perfect harbourside spot, protected from the southerlies by a sea wall. 26 degrees was yesterday's top. Today, a 9-degree plunge to a maximum of just 17.
At 1 o'clock this afternoon, it was 16 degrees in the city, but with this wind chill, it felt like 6. In the Blue Mountains, the apparent temperature was below zero for most of the day.
September, being a spring month, there's a lot of chaos within the weather system, so it can vary from week to week.
Early morning joggers came across this kangaroo trapped in Canberra's Lake Burley Griffin and carefully carried him to safety. It might have been -2, but it's enough to warm your heart.
Oh, he's thinking ya.
Natalia Cooper, 9 News.
How fantastic. Well, with more on today's weather, Amber's with me in the studio. How strong did those winds get?
Good evening to you, Pete. We saw gale force winds in some parts of Sydney today, southwesterlies reaching 83 kilometres an hour in the harbour and 74 kilometres an hour at the airport and in Kurnell, making it a very chilly and choppy ride on the Manly Ferry today. This is just as those southerlies reached their peak early this afternoon. Strong to gale force wind warnings remain in place across much of New South Wales tomorrow. I'll be back to tell you when the wind will ease and when it will start to warm up a little later, Pete.
Amber, thank you. Belly fat, it's stubborn and bad for your health, so this breakthrough, 8 years of research, is a big deal. Researchers have discovered why fat builds there and how to get rid of it. And it could be as simple as taking a pill. That report a little later. Frightening video inside a Granville service station. Police allege this is the first of 3 robberies about to unfold. The chilling 911 phone call shedding new light on life on the road for Gabby Petito and her boyfriend. Netflix for cars. Pick your model, pay a weekly fee and cancel any time. The alternative to ownership. And slow motion destruction. Lava boils the water in swimming pools as it swallows more and more homes. A man has been charged over 3 armed robberies in 3 days. Police allege the 27-year-old first struck at South Granville on Saturday night, threatening a petrol station worker with a large kitchen knife. He's accused of targeting a second servo at nearby Granville on Sunday morning, then again yesterday lunchtime, wielding kitchen knives. A teenager has been charged over the near-fatal stabbing of a high school student at a beach party near Coffs Harbour. The 16-year-old handed himself in after using social media to taunt police officers while allegedly on the run for almost 40 hours.
Keep bottling me with the broken bottle, bro, and it stabbed me in the ear like 3-4 times, bro. The
injured teenager remains in an induced coma. It's been described as the Netflix for cars. Pick your model, pay a weekly or monthly fee and cancel at any time. Car subscription services are on the rise in Australia as an increasing number of drivers shun the expense of owning a vehicle.
We readily subscribe to streaming services such as Netflix, Stan and Spotify, but how about a car?
Car subscription services are growing because not everyone wants or can afford a new car.
Unlike car share and car rental, which are short term, car subscription lets you choose the type of car, keep it for as long as you want, swap it for something different if your needs change, and hand it back when you're done.
If you're locked into long-term finance, it may be difficult to get out of that. And it also may cost you a lot of money. So subscription gives you that flexibility to have the car that you want that's right for the purposes right now.
At Carly, prices can start from $119 a week for a 2008 Hyundai when available, a 2019 Kia Rio from $168 or a 2021 Tesla Model 3 starting at $350 a week. Hello Cars also starts at $119 a week, moving up to $147 for a Holden Cruise and $489 for a 2021 Volvo XC40.
You don't need to worry about all the payments associated with traditional car ownership, like registration, insurance, depreciation, servicing costs. For a low weekly payment, it's all inclusive.
There are things to watch out for. Some plans come with joining fees or security deposits that can add up to thousands of dollars. There may be minimum subscription periods, usually 30 days, but can be longer. And there may also be limits on how many kilometres you can drive, with a fee per kilometre after that.
You really need to do your sums. It may not add up for a lot of people, but for some people who don't drive that much, it definitely makes sense.
Eddie Meyer, 9 News.
US authorities have released the 911 call that prompted police to check on 22-year-old Gabby Petito 1 month before she vanished. A witness reportedly saw the travel blogger's fiancé, Brian Laundrie, hitting her on the streets of Utah before they drove off in a white van.
We drove by and the gentleman was slapping the girl.
He was slapping her?
Yes, and then we stopped. They ran up and down the sidewalk. He proceeded to hit her, hopped in the car, and they drove off.
The FBI has stormed Brian Laundrie's family home. Investigators are yet to track him down. We have major news just in about New Year's Eve, the story coming up. Plus, a twist in a teenager's death at Macquarie Fields that's brought his grieving grandmother to tears. The Prime Minister's nephew forced to put his money where his mouth is over fleecing customers. Hundreds of homes consumed by lava, street by street. And the incredible new plastic that recycles itself, and the grocery items you can choose to help save the planet.
9 News, brought to you by Nearmap, the most intelligent aerial map on Earth.
As we come back to you, we have breaking news. Sydney's New Year's Eve family fireworks display has been cancelled. City of Sydney Council says the move is necessary to avoid crossover of large crowds attending the separate shows at 9 p.m. and midnight. The midnight display will still go ahead. A southwestern Sydney grandmother fought back tears today, pleading for information about the suspected arson death of her 14-year-old grandson. Tamar Tierra Jones was having a sleepover with friends when tragedy struck.
It's been 3 long months since Barbara lost her grandson.
He was the most happiest child ever. Everyone around here can remember his smile, his walk, how the child was. It was beautiful.
14-year-old Tamar Tierra Jones was sleeping in the upstairs bedroom of his friend's Macquarie Fields home when fire took hold in the early hours of June 30. And now detectives think the blaze was deliberately lit.
We believe that the origin of the fire was external to the premises, the deck area that was accessible to the public.
A 36-year-old mother and her 5 young children managed to escape the home. Tamar did not. It's claimed the woman was involved in a large street brawl just hours earlier. A line of inquiry now for police whether the fire could have been a retaliation attack.
We're looking at that altercation. We're aware of it.
So far, dozens of residents have given statements, but detectives are certain there are people who know more.
Especially youths in the area that may be able to assist.
The grief is still so raw here in Macquarie Fields, and Tama's family are still without answers. Today's appeal is hoping to give those who may know more a second chance to come forward.
Somebody must know something out there that's what's happened on that night.
James Wilson, 9 News.
Scott Morrison's nephew will have to put his money where his mouth is, ordered to repay more than $30,000 for building work he never completed. Clients of Mitchell Cole claim the tradie name-dropped and showed photos with the Prime Minister to win their trust. He's also been fined $26,000 and will have to complete 200 hours of community service. The threat of an eruption on Spain's Canary Islands is refusing to subside. Lava expected to spew from the volcano for weeks to come. The Spanish Prime Minister is right now overseeing rescue efforts, with thousands fleeing their homes, more than 100 of which are all but destroyed.
A smouldering landscape where an unstoppable force has consumed all before it. Lava has crept through the island street by street, edging towards the doors of holiday homes before they're destroyed. Pools turning to boiling pots as the scorching tide spills over. Firefighters and police could do nothing to slow the spread, although they did manage to get some livestock out of harm's way. A camera on a nearby observatory showing how the La Palma volcano burst to life against the night sky. Police ordering evacuations.
Por favor, desalojen las viviendas.
There were 5 fissures torn into the hillside, 4 villages in its path, and thousands of people fled, including tourists.
I phoned the lady who's where we're living, and she said she doesn't know if the house is still standing.
Even as the molten monster slowed over the next hours, the lava gave off potentially dangerous gases. The Prime Minister speaking to rescue workers, giving him the good news that no one had been killed or injured. He said the most important thing is safety. We're still in a stage of eruption. Stay as far as possible. A message missed by Spain's tourism minister, who said the volcano might actually lure tourists back to the Canary Islands to see the wonderful natural spectacle, a spectacle many could have lived without. Brett McLeod, 9 News.
Woolworths is using cutting-edge science to reduce its carbon footprint by using the same plastics over and over again. Enzymes are being used in the recycling process to stop the amount of material ending up in landfill.
Stepping into the supermarket, it's hard not to find produce wrapped in plastic. Now scientists have come up with a way to use the same plastic over and over again.
As a society, we're addicted to plastic. 400 million tonnes of plastic each year are produced. Only 9% of that plastic is recycled.
It's polluting oceans and land, vast amounts ending up in landfill. Now a partnership with the Australian National University and CSIRO-founded Main Sequence has come up with a way to reduce the environmental burden. Researchers used enzymes to break down plastic into a form that can be used in plastic production.
Plastics would normally take thousands of years to break down naturally. The enzymes allow this breakdown to happen very quickly, on the timescale of minutes to hours.
Supermarkets have faced criticism for the amount of plastics they use not only on food but promotions. The enzyme is being used on a small scale in a lab, but there are plans to build a large facility. Woolworths will use the first 5,000 tonnes of recycled plastic from the plant, turning it into packaging for its products.
Over the last couple of years, we've removed thousands of tonnes of plastic from our packaging. But sometimes plastic is critical to extend the life of food.
Vicky Jardim, 9 News.
Researchers now know why fat takes hold around the waist, and it's helped them develop a pill to shift it. Ahead, the stunning breakthrough to fight obesity and diabetes.
And thinking about a second car for the family? Why not try the Giga Horse, 16 cylinders of grunt that featured in Mad Max Fury Road, up for sale.
Thank you, Michael. Michael Maguire has survived.
He has. He's somehow climbed out of that tiger trap, Pete. Tonight, exclusive details of how West Tigers bumbled their way to keeping their coach after all. The club chairman called the whole sorry affair embarrassing and a debacle. He's been banned from playing, but Latrell Mitchell is still playing a big role in the finals as Tommy Turbo's body double. And meet the teenage Aussie bowler who destroyed India's batting lineup in the first one-day.
And after a freezing day, thanks to gusty winds, it will slowly start to warm up. I'll tell you when the winds will die down shortly.
It's one thing we look forward to in lockdown. A package at the door. But what if the text notification is a scam? What to do when you get fake messages? Can they get your details? How you can make them stop?
How to protect yourself.
The full story on 9 News tomorrow.
Embarrassing and a debacle. That's a direct quote from West Tigers chairman Lee Hadjipantelis describing the review process which torched Michael Maguire yet retained him as coach. So Maguire is safe for now, but the pressure on him will be extreme, given it's clear significant forces at the club wanted him gone.
An endangered species one day, safe the next. Michael Maguire today avoided a fate which seemed inevitable just 24 hours earlier.
I've never been critical of Michael Maguire as a coach. I'm unhappy with finishing 13th, as our fans and members are, and as they should be. But as a person and as a coach, I've never been critical of Michael, but unhappy with the results.
The events of a mad Monday in Tiger Town can now be revealed. Maguire fronted the Tigers football committee yesterday to plead his case. A 4 p.m. board meeting to determine his future had already been arranged. It was cancelled at the last minute to give the club more time.
Yesterday, for example, was, in my view, a debacle and an embarrassment to the club. Far too much of this process was played out in the media.
Panthers assistant coach Cameron Ciraldo was widely tipped as the man the Tigers wanted. The club insists that suggestions he wouldn't accept the job did not play a part in their decision.
We did not consider any alternatives whatsoever. We did not approach any alternative candidates. We did not speak to anyone about any alternative candidates.
Maguire has had to make compromises. The coaching structure at the Tigers will change, with Tim Sheens to oversee the operation as coaching director.
Tim, by reason of his stature in the game and who he is, will take on a very senior role.
As for the pressure on Maguire, Hadjipantelis isn't worried.
The pressure will be external. It won't be internal. It won't be pressure that we'll be putting on Michael or the playing group. We will provide them all the support and the resources that they need to succeed.
Michael Chammas, 9 News.
Souths need someone big, fast and agile to mimic the attacking skills of Tom Trbojevic as they prepare to take on Manly in the preliminary final. Luckily, suspended fullback Latrell Mitchell is perfect for that job, and although he can't play on Friday, his body double work is a big contribution.
It would have been a fullback battle for the ages. Latrell Mitchell v Tom Trbojevic in sudden death footy. For the Bunnies, this is the next best thing.
Yeah, we've got a young fullback here who's not too bad, who's got a bit of free time on his hands at the moment, Latrell. So he's been quite a handful at training, but that's what we wanted. This is where the other players in the squad become so important.
I guess the silver lining of the situation that we're in with Latrell is that he can sort of slot in there in the reserves and sort of, pretty accurately act as a Tommy Turbo for us.
So, what is the secret to stopping the Manly superstar?
I don't know. Yeah, look, he's had an outstanding year this year. Not many teams have been successful in. I don't think you can stop him. I think you just got to limit that possession game.
Manly have Turbo, but Souths have Wayne Bennett. 35 seasons, 888 matches. You can't underestimate the impact of the super coach.
I think we get to see a different side of Wayne that probably a lot of people don't get to see. He's very caring about his players, and I love playing for Wayne, even though he's a bit grumpy sometimes. But he's just got this knack of knowing how to get the best out of his players.
The Bunnies made the last 3 prelims and lost all of them. But don't think for a second they're dwelling on history.
You can't change the past, you can only shape the future.
Emma Lawrence, 9 News.
Nathan Cleary is pushing towards his first Dally M medal, but he'll have to hold off that man Tom Trbojevic when the final 6 rounds of votes are counted next week. Cleary leads by 1 point over the Sea Eagles superstar.
It'd obviously be pretty awesome. Again, going back to when I was growing up, you always watch the Dally M's, and the people that have won it in the past, it's some of my heroes. So, it would be a massive honour, but we'll see.
Trbojevic has already picked up one honour, claiming try of the year for Manly's length of the field after the siren special against the Cowboys. Josh Addo-Carr is back to torment the Panthers. The Fox named to make his return from a hamstring injury in Friday's preliminary final. And Penrith faces an anxious wait to see if some of their stars will be fit to play, but remain confident they can avenge last year's grand final loss.
Forget about 2020. The Panthers of 2021 say they're the upgraded version.
Yeah, definitely. In several areas.
The players believe they're a vastly improved side to the one which ran out in last year's heartbreaking grand final loss to the Storm.
We're growing as a team still. The last sort of 6 weeks, we've improved a little bit every week, and it's good. I think we're in a pretty good spot going into this weekend's game.
We've got a lot more big game count experience under our belt. We're still a young side, but we've got plenty of confidence in what we can do.
On the injury front, Viliami Kikau has been named to play, but Brian To'o has been named on the extended bench and will still have to prove his fitness.
He was training today as well with us, so big ups for us, for Bizzo as well. Hopefully he gets through these next couple of tests throughout the week and he's sweet to play.
The Panthers were today slapped with a $25,000 fine and trainer Pete Green suspended for the remainder of the season for stopping play before he'd examined injured hooker Mitch Kenny late in the 2-point win over the Eels.
Mitch Kenny's got a pretty serious injury there in his ankle and he won't be playing this week, so he definitely made the right call in stopping the game.
Danica Mason, 9 News.
The Wallabies have climbed to number 3 in the world and posted back-to-back wins for the first time under coach Dave Rennie, but they're certainly not buying into any hype after their success against the Springboks.
That sort of means bugger all if we don't go out there and do it again. No one remembers winning 2 games against South Africa. Everyone will remember us losing against Argentina. Everyone will remember that.
The Wallabies face Argentina on Saturday in the first of 2 tests. We have a new star of Australian cricket. Teenage bowler Darcy Brown tore through the Indian batting lineup on debut, finishing with figures of 4 for 33 to set up Australia's 9-wicket victory in the first one-dayer. Rachel Haynes, Alyssa Healy and Meg Lanning all posted half-centuries, chasing down the 226-run target with 9 overs to spare. And Sam Kerr will reach a major career milestone tomorrow morning, her 100th appearance for the Matildas. A new-look Australian side will take on Ireland for the very first time.
It's an amazing honour, something I don't take lightly, and a little bit sad some of my buddies can't be here for it. I've pretty much played the whole 100 with them, but I'm sure there'll be many more games to celebrate all our 100s.
Kerr is closing in on another accolade as well. She's now just 3 goals off Australia's all-time goal-scoring record, held by Tim Cahill with 50 of them. 47 goals for Australia. It's a great career she's had already, Pete.
She is a superstar.
Yeah.
Cam, thank you. In the news ahead, researchers developing a pill to help you shed stubborn belly fat. And how about one of these for a family runabout? The Mad Max wheels that could be all yours. We have long been warned of the dangers of putting on excess weight around our waist, but a landmark Australian study has uncovered how one pill can target belly fat and reduce the risk of obesity and type 2 diabetes.
Mum tum, dad bod, beer gut, jelly belly. It's the stubborn pocket of fat that increases our risk of cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. But researchers from Monash University have come up with a way to treat the process that causes weight to form around our waist.
We're pretty excited that it's going to be a new approach to treat type 2 diabetes.
The 8-year study, conducted in collaboration with Melbourne, South Australia and Auckland universities and published in Nature Metabolism, found consuming a high-fat diet causes the lymphatic vessels that drain the gut to grow. Over time, they become more branched and leak into fat cells, resulting in excess belly fat and insulin resistance. Researchers then set out to develop a treatment using a modified anti-inflammatory drug and a novel delivery system to reverse lymphatic vessel changes.
I guess the magic is that the drug's attached to this fat, and when you take it, it gets absorbed through those pathways into the lymph and goes directly to the site where you need it to work.
The next step is for the treatment to be trialled on people with pre-diabetes to determine if this method is more effective than existing treatments.
The delivery system has been patented by Monash and sold to a US biotech to develop future drug treatments.
We need to try to make better treatments because this is what's shortening people's lives in general.
Kate Creedon, 9 News.
The Mad Max movies had their good guys and their villains, but the unspoken heroes were the cars, in all their weird and wonderful shapes. Now, the heavy metal beasts from Mad Max Fury Road are up for sale.
They're probably not your regular consideration for a second-hand car, but geez, no one's going to argue with you for that parking posse during Christmas shopping. A total of 13 cars used during production of Mad Max Fury Road, now for sale, such as the reworked Ford 32 Coupe called Elvis.
This is one of the first cars that you see as part of, I guess, the chase on Fury Road. This is the backbone of the Mad Max franchise. This is the XB Interceptor.
Burnished to bare metal, it has a surprising Achilles heel. But I shouldn't really have my fingers on it, I'm told.
The acids on our fingers can rust it away.
And the chariot of the film's evil protagonist, the Giga Horse.
The 1959 dual Cadillacs that have been welded together. It's got dual V8 engines. This thing is an absolute machine. This was built for a king.
They are far from the fakery of Hollywood props, using true heavy metal. Each engine of each beast ticking over for real. The catch from the collection's current owners is that all 13 must be brought as one lot. But as they say in the auction caper, it's one of one.
They want to make sure it goes to a new custodian who's going to honour and respect the vehicles the way they need to be honoured and respected.
Mike Dalton, 9 News.
If you want to buy them, you'll be interested in finance, petrol prices and Amber with our weather. That's next.
Thank you, Pete. We're seeing huge surf off the coast with waves expected to peak in the 4-metre range tonight before gradually easing tomorrow. And it is still freezing outside thanks to those winds. Right now it feels like 8 in the city, 10 degrees in our west. I'll have your forecast next.
$50 billion was wiped off the market yesterday. Investors crept back in today. Gains from Telstra, CSL and realestate.com all helped push the index higher. And travel companies also did well after cheap interstate fares were unveiled. APA Group was the worst performer in a mixed bag of strugglers. The Australian dollar was stronger today, but it remains below 73 US cents and 62 euro cents. It's also buying just above 53 British pence.
Chris, thank you. The average price for unleaded a litre, diesel $1.49 even. Here's Amber.
It has been a cold and windy day, although it has stayed dry. Southwesterlies reaching strong to gale force across the Sydney Basin. Officially, it reached a top of 19 degrees in Penrith, 18 in Liverpool and Campbelltown, 15 in Terry Hills and 17 in the city. But with the wind chill at 2 p.m, the airport only felt like an icy 4 degrees. The city and Bankstown felt like 8. The polar blast brought cold and windy conditions right across New South Wales, with some light showers in the northern rivers and the mid-north coast, as well as snow on our Alps and in parts of the central tablelands. In contrast, Darwin had its hottest September day on record today, reaching 38 degrees. Tomorrow, a broad high will build heat in the west, but bring a chilly morning to the southeast. Brisbane will be sunny and 24 degrees, a partly cloudy day ahead for Canberra, 17, and some early drizzle in Melbourne. Tomorrow, showers will hug the coast, but they won't quite make it to shore, so it should be mainly fine. A very cold morning for inland areas, though, dipping to -2 in Mudgee and Bathurst and 0 in Dubbo. The winds will stick around. There is a gale warning for much of the north coast and a strong wind warning from the Hunter down to Bateman's Bay. After possible areas of smoke haze in our north, Sydney will be partly cloudy tomorrow with light to moderate southwesterly winds turning southeasterly, and those dangerous surf conditions will continue. It will be thankfully a little warmer than today, heading for tops of 20 to 21 degrees right across our western suburbs, including Kellyville and Liverpool, 18 for Terry Hills and 20 in the city, although there will be a wind chill in exposed areas. Let's take a look ahead. Thursday and Friday looking absolutely beautiful. The winds will ease and it will be sunny. Tops of 25 to 27 degrees before a cool change moves in for the weekend. Heading for a partly cloudy 21 on Saturday and a possible shower on Sunday with a top of just 18 degrees. Those overnight lows ranging from 9 to 12. In our west, Thursday and Friday will be warm and sunny, heading for 28 degrees. That sunshine hanging around on Saturday with a top of 23. Sunday much cooler though, staying fine, but a top of just 19 degrees. Then next week it will stay warm and start to warm up. Those overnight lows ranging from 8 to 11 degrees, Pete.
Amber, thank you. Tracy is next with the current affair. That is 9 News for this Tuesday. I'm Peter Overton. I hope you have a good evening. From all of us, good night.